Okay, and we are officially on our podcast. I think this is podcast number 12, if I'm not mistaken. But Big
Nice.
Matt, yes, how are you? And I hope you're doing well. Hope your kids are doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're staying safe in this pandemic, bro. It's been a crazy turn of events and stuff. I don't even know what's going on. I mean, every day I see in the news, COVID cases just rising. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is pretty chaotic out there, and the best thing we can do is see if we can, take care of ourselves, because there's just too much confusion. So these types of podcasts, I think, are perfect.
Exactly. I mean, we can go off on so many topics, but we're going to go over mitochondria. And see this, and when Andrew and Alex were telling me that mitochondria was one of the topics that you wanted to discuss, I was actually super intrigued. I was like, damn, because like mitochondria, I mean, you can go off so much. Nobody even knows about mitochondria. I swear to God, like I think the one thing that people know about it is that it's just the powerhouse of the cell. That's pretty much it. That's like the most basic fundamental knowledge.
That's about it.
That's about it, dude. That's about it. It's the powerhouse of the cell. No,
yeah.
So I'm actually intrigued though. What made you want to talk about mitochondria? Why mitochondria?
Well, because for any fitness guru, health guru, mental health guru, spiritual guru, understanding your mitochondria will probably be one of the best legs up, or advantages, or knowledge bases to know and to have, to make sure that in your journey of improving yourself, whatever way that may be, I think understanding the mitochondria would be the most influential in terms of connecting science, maybe not some philosophical focuses, but scientific focuses. I fully believe that the mitochondria would be the number one thing we should be focusing on before all the other dietary macronutrient type of micronutrient type of conversations. I mean, even though those are extremely important conversations, there are things about the human body that are more fundamental, and it's those fundamental things that the mitochondria teaches that really kind of puts into perspective an energy perspective, in terms of your ATP being your energy protein.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, your mitochondria is responsible for creating that, and which is, and so that's just, I'll leave it there for now, and that's why I mean mitochondria are very, in terms, like I said, all versions of health start at a fundamental level, and in fixing the mitochondria is so fundamental that it would help you understand all the other nuclear genome, all of the other macronutrients and all that stuff even more clearly.
Yep. No, I 100% agree with you. No, you even said, you said you even correlated mitochondria to mental health. Now I'm curious, like how is that applicable? That's interesting.
Energy, really, communication.
Just like energy. Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
System in terms of your hormone release, in terms of your happy, because being happy isn't magic. Obviously, this. It's a biochemical process, and in order to be happy, we actually have to be producing dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and all those happy hormone chemicals that are really important. We need to be producing those, and those obviously have a very big impact on our mental health, I would think.
No, definitely. I mean, especially, and here's the thing, is that you are able to get those sources externally, but when it comes from within, I think that's what benefits the human species the most. Like, because you can get a dopamine rush from doing all sorts of different drugs, like any hallucinogens or even stimulants. But when it comes from within, and I think that's what you're going for, is like the internal release of it. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And to kind of put it into more perspective, I mean, we got to just kind of understand how much mitochondria is our body. First off, mitochondria, they're a bacteria, pretty much, your mitochondria. And it communicate electrically. Our bacteria in our body communicate electrically. And basically, these mitochondria, you can have anywhere from 100 to 1,000 of them. I mean, I've heard people say that some cells, like our neurological cells and the cells around our heart muscles, they could potentially have above 2,000 in certain cases of mitochondria per cell. But the general idea is we have anywhere from 100 to 1,000 per cell. So that just kind of puts into perspective. If you have trillions of cells, that means you've got quadrillions of mitochondria. And when you kind of see what these mitochondria actually are, they're like antennas, and they are like a vacuum to your environment. They absorb your environment, and they are your main, having healthy mitochondrial health is like your main defense against inflammation.
Definitely.
And inflammation is the number one precursor to literally almost every disease in existence.
100%. Yeah.
So if you can nip that in the bud, inflammation, it would only make sense that you're practically preventing almost every single disease in existence.
You're absolutely correct. That's actually, you know what? I didn't even think about it, that it all starts with inflammation. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes, sir. So that is why focusing on the mitochondria is more important than the ketogenic diet that you're doing, or the frugivore diet, or or any of these information conflicting, one size fits all types of diets that it's literally not true in any way, shape, or form. Everybody is different, and that your mitochondria are what determines how your body will take in nutrients, will determine how your body takes in nutrients. Right.
It's like, how can we even strengthen it, because it's not like a muscle where you can exercise and work out. How can you strengthen the mitochondria from within?
Exactly, by understanding redox potential. Really, basically what the mitochondria does is it builds up a net negative charge. What it really does is besides producing ATP, it creates water, but it also creates like a structured form of water. Gerald Pollack, a book called The Fourth Phase of Water. Really interesting stuff. Basically, this structured water is so important to be created by the mitochondria, because the more efficiently structured, or the better structured that the water is, basically means liquid crystal. So you can think of it as that. So basically the structured water refracts photons with electrons, also known as you can integrate the photoelectric effect, Nobel Prize by Albert Einstein, into this whole concept here. So the photoelectric effect basically says that electrons get excited by photons, and really pretty much only by photons. So that would mean that certain light
ejection.
Because what?
So I'm just trying to pull from knowledge from my. So you said photoelectric effect. What I know about the photoelectric effect is it's about there's, as far as I know, there's two definitions. One from the physics and one from Gen Chem. I guess one of the definitions that I know is like the ejection of electrons has everything to do with the photoelectric and like ionization and whatnot.
Right. Yep. You got it. Yep.
Okay. Good. So is that what you were saying? Is that what you were saying?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Okay. That's all like within the same realm.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So absolutely. So if your mitochondria is creating this structured water around your body, you are then becoming what you are. You're becoming a more efficient version of what you are, and you are a solar battery. And your solar battery gets optimized by your environment, or destroyed by your environment. If you do not keep your solar battery optimized, meaning your electron chain transport system is tunneling electrons efficiently, and protons, which would be your light hydrogen molecules, which are protons, and the utilization of the electrons to the protons is what spins your fifth cytochrome, which is a respiratory protein, which is what allows for your mitochondria to create your ATP. So it's extremely important to just get those fundamentals down. And one fundamental thing is your solar battery that you are, which is also known as redox potential, which could also be seen as a net negative charge being created in your body in terms of a DC, creating what's called literally a DC current. And this DC current, it is responsible for stimulating the processes in the body that encourage cell regeneration, which, so you can see how it just kind of all chain reactions by hitting the most fundamental part first. And that's basically energy flow through your mitochondria, and the energy being flown so efficiently through the mitochondria that your ability to resist inflammation, which is another way of saying having a high redox potential, would be extremely beneficial and amplified.
That's very interesting. And that's what sways inflammation away, the high redox potential. That's what you're saying.
Yes, right.
Gotcha. Dang. That's crazy.
Even measured. It's even measured. A lot of what I'm talking about isn't. There's science. There's so much science behind this. You just, if you just look into Dr. Doug Wallace, he is like the lead researcher.
I think you told me about him. Hold up, Dr. Doug.
He will tell you that there's a massive correlation. He proves that there is a massive correlation between your body's efficiency and energy, handling the energy in your body, and your rate of disease. There's a huge correlation with those two things. And so he pretty much just tells you not just the correlation, but the entire science of it. It's very in-depth and detailed. I can't tell you a lot of it, but I can tell you a decent amount of it. And basically...
What was one thing that stuck out to you then? Yeah, tell me.
So basically, on the inner mitochondrial membrane, you have this folded organelle known as the Cristae. And this Cristae has what's inside of them 5 cytochromes, which are also respiratory proteins. Those are also, what's really interesting about these, they're also what are called aromatic amino acids, meaning they are chromophores or red light receivers, basically.
Because of their conjugation. Exactly. Right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They're infrared light. Well, that and they're basically they're a pi electron cloud. They have like a benzene ring, which is basically.
I know exactly what you're saying, Bidmat. That's crazy. Right. Yeah. Very good.
For sure, and all hormones are aromatic amino acids. So that, and some of them have more benzene rings than others, like melatonin and leptin. And leptin is like your number one trigger for releasing all the hormones out of the hypothalamus and all that stuff through the suprachiasmatic nucleus when photons hit your retina in your eye. So under your skin, you have leptin receptors throughout your entire, right on your subcutaneous fat there. And your leptin receptors are extremely photon traps. They're extremely aromatic amino acids, meaning they need photons. They need light to send the right programs in your body to produce the right hormones, to protect you from the harmful rays of sunlight, but to also build your solar callus so sunlight is no longer harmful to the people and the dermatologists and the epidemiology that constantly say sun causes cancer. It will not cause cancer from what I researched and what's the most brilliant doctors I have researched are saying, and PhDs. Definitely. They are saying you will not, which also you bring in vitamin D into that whole situation. You'll see that everybody who has skin cancer also has very low levels of vitamin D.
Vitamin D,
all those things just correlate all together, and it all makes perfect sense that if your body is not utilizing the energy efficiently, then your body will not use the 100, because your body does 100,000 biochemical processes every second of every day. You need a lot of energy to take care of all those things. And if you don't, what you do is you cause chaos. And another word for chaos is inflammation.
That's right.
So it all starts with energy, and the most efficient power plant of the cell, which everybody knows, is the mitochondria.
Mitochondria, yeah. And that's the beauty of it. And here's the thing is that not many people, I don't think, even know that it has its own DNA.
Yep, absolutely. Your mitochondrial DNA, you got it. And every DNA rung has what's called a biological clock on them. And that is where circadian biology takes a play. That's where concepts like it doesn't really matter what you eat, but when you eat start to come into play. That's where concepts like the seasonal diet comes into play. You know, like it's a whole new way to look at it. And basically it's not a new way to look at it. All you're doing is looking at Mother Nature and following what is already there for us to learn, to understand. And basically all creatures, all things living on this planet use photosynthesis to create some kind of life force and have some kind of life here on this earth. So I mean, it's really about photons. And your body, you are a solar battery, and your solar battery can be determined by your redox potential. But I never actually finished what I was saying about the respiratory proteins. So within the Cristae that I was telling you about, in the inner mitochondrial membrane, the 5 respiratory proteins, those tunnel electrons. That's how you're tunneling your electrons and all that stuff. And that's where you're also processing your sugars and your fats and your proteins. And that, you know, and that's also where you prevent your inflammations and all that type of stuff. And that's and there's something that's really interesting about that, and that's called percent heteroplasmy. And that's what I was going to tell you about what Dr. Doug Wallace was teaching. And it's percent heteroplasmy is something that's really interesting because it's almost like a determining factor of how healthy you are if you know it, and you can tell it through a blood test. And basically, it's what it is there's a certain angstroms in between these respiratory proteins, and I forget the exact measurements, but they need to be a certain distance, and if they are, their ability to tunnel electrons, it becomes way more efficient. And because they're able to tunnel more efficiently, your body has a higher output of energy through the mitochondria because of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Awesome.
I mean, there's just so much that the mitochondria does. And I think that one of the most important things that mitochondria has a role in is actually apoptosis.
Absolutely. Yep. Autophagy and apoptosis. I mean, it's not just red light. So apoptosis is highly dependent on UV light and sleep. And then autophagy is highly dependent on red light, sleep, and melatonin. Now, about your redox potential, so we need to kind of understand sunlight. Sunlight is 43% infrared light. When the sun's out. Yeah, exactly. Infrared light penetrates through even the clouds. I mean, that's why it's important to still be outside during the day when it's raining or snowing or whatever, if you can. If it's, if you're able to do it, you should, because you're still going to get red light. Red light penetrates through all that stuff. So it penetrates deep enough into the body, into the skin, and that's what hits your structured water that's created by your mitochondria that creates net negative charge, which is also the redox potential that I'm referring to. So infrared light, that's why you see photobiomodulation and infrared saunas popping up all over the place, because that's the idea. That's what they're doing. They're just re-stimulating your body's ability to take charge and utilize it through the mitochondria to create anti-inflammation, which is a natural being. Like if you lived in a natural environment, like, because we haven't even gotten into what is the environment that's affecting us, and that is a whole nother story.
Right.
If we ever, if we lived in the right environment, our body is amazing, and it will
know.
it will reverse a lot of the damage. Like,
It's crazy. It is crazy
programs
how
are
our body works.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's funny that that's good that you use the word reverse. It's able to reverse it. It's able to reverse the damage that is done.
Yeah,
That's very true. That's very true. That yeah, actually go in more into depth on that, on reversible exchange rates. That's very true though.
Sure. Well, I mean, that biological clock is basically your engine, and your engines need to be running at full capacity. You need to be, your cells are running like a regular, sedan engine. Nothing too crazy, but they have the ability. They have the ability to run like Ferraris. They have the ability to be extremely efficient. And basically, the more efficient, the more we're able to reset our clock, the more damage we're able to reverse. And our clock can be fully influenced by sunlight and circadian biology and eating at the right time of the day. And fasting is one of the most amazing things you can do, but especially intermediate fasting.
Intermediate fasting. Yeah.
Less. Like, even going through a 3-day fast will trigger like a certain process. What the heck is it called? Crap, I forgot what it was called. Bummer. But anyways, if you go certain amounts of time without eating, it triggers like another kind of survival mechanism, but it's not necessarily dangerous. It just kind of amplifies your body's ability to maintain energy or absorb energy from your environment, from other than food, and in other ways.
Right.
I forget exactly what it is, but that's also very interesting. That type of
is
stuff.
It like a metabolic process? Are you talking about like some sort of metabolic process?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
If you're going on like a short fast, I mean, like, I don't even want to say metabolic process, because I mean, it depends on how the fasting is, I guess. I mean, if you're just fasting for a few hours, I guess you'd be resorting to like gluconeogenesis or something. But like, I guess if it's like a fast, like not even like starvation. I mean, if it's starvation, I mean, then you're probably going to be resorting to like ketone bodies.
Right. Well, yeah. It's very similar. And also, another thing that kind of supports that idea is by putting the body in high stress environments and whatnot is not the best idea. However, if your body's prepared to do it, it can really amplify you. And one thing that comes to mind when I think about that is cold thermogenesis. And cold thermogenesis comes into, Wim Hof is the big dude with all this, but it's really something incredible. Basically putting your body in extreme conditions. Obviously you got to work your way into it. Don't just go ahead and jump out in the snow or in some freezing lake and, on the first day. You obviously got it. But eventually.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
By putting your body in extreme conditions triggers a lot of, like, for instance, upregulating your body, your combustion systems, your thermodynamic systems in your body in order to maintain heat. So, if you're able to stress your body out with that cold, you upregulate that process, and that can be beneficial if it's done right, at the right time.
It strengthens your immune system. You're super right. I don't know if you do this or not, but in the mornings, like I only take cold showers, like in the mornings only.
Nice.
Like freezing cold showers. I mean, and I've definitely noticed that I'm much more awake. And not only that, but you're also warmer throughout the day, because now your body is going through thermoregulation.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So like whether if you take a hot shower, I mean, you're actually gonna feel colder during the day. It's like, it's just so opposite. It's crazy.
It is. It's fun to
but I like the way that you say, like, in a sense, like put your body into like extreme conditions, and that way your body can actually amplify its own response. I get what you're saying. I definitely get what you're saying, and that makes sense.
Right, definitely.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever done something that you would like to do to amplify your own body, like put your body in an extreme condition? What would you want to do, maybe?
Really, just consistency is what's most important. If I could just be consistent, because getting the sunlight for even 15 to 30 minutes in the morning in the very first hour of sunrise every morning with no glasses and no coverings and nothing.
Mm.
Even you can always amplify these things, and this is exactly what I'd like to do. I'd like to be getting sunlight in the morning while meditating, while doing cold thermogenesis, while doing a breathing exercise, all at the same time. You know, like,
that's an ideal morning right there.
Maybe not all at the same time, but maybe
Right.
within the same hour, 2 hour time period.
Yeah. No, honestly, it is crazy. I mean, and it's actually almost frustrating because your body is not living up to its full potential right now. Mine is not, yours is not. Like, I don't think anybody's body is living up to their full potential. And if there was more time to a day, I understand what you're saying. Like, you would like to do all these things, like, because this would amplify your response. This would make your body feel a lot better, and it's stronger naturally.
Right, exactly.
It's like the best steroid. It's like the best steroid, you know?
Yeah, it's the best supplement, you know?
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly, yeah.
It's going to allow you to build muscle faster, maintain it longer, maintain hydration more efficiently, utilize all those supplements that you are spending an arm and a leg on. You know, now they'll actually work for you. You know, they'll work more efficiently because your body will be more able to absorb them. You know, it's just basically like, that's why it's constantly like, this is your fundamental fix first. You fix your circadian biology, your mitochondria health, and then the rest of your health falls like in line. Not only that, but you become way more aware of your health. You start to be able to read your own body more. You start to be able to become more cognizant of just feelings of anything you're eating, and that in itself just starts directing you towards, you know, what you want to be, optimization.
Right. You're just more in tune with your body. I like the way you say that. You're more in tune with your body. And you know what? It's funny that you say that because, okay, so are you familiar with Ramadan?
You know, I'm sure I've heard many things, but I'm not exactly.
So Ramadan is basically, it's like, I'm not like a very religious person or anything, but I do celebrate Ramadan. And Ramadan is essentially like where it's like a diet of its own. You know, it's you're not supposed to eat anything when the sun is out, and when the sun finally comes down, you can eat. And this is just for a month. This is like the time frame. And obviously within this 1 month, you know, you're supposed to, no alcohol, no drug, no anything, you know, only you're just supposed to be focusing on yourself. But during the day, when there's sun, you cannot have any water, you cannot have any food. And then when the sun goes down, then you are admitted to going back to eating and whatnot. And this lasts for 1 month. And I tell you, man, after this 1 month is over, I just feel so in tune with my body. Yeah. And then obviously I'm back to my old habits, and then I kind of get fucked up and shit. But,
it's very interesting though that you say that in that way, that Ramadan does that, and it has nothing to say against Ramadan. I'm not at all. But the whole protocol for circadian biology is eating when the sun is out.
Right,
and never eating when the sun is dark, like that. It's actually extremely beneficial from like, in terms of just, that's not just a fast, that's now turning into like, if you just do that, I mean, eat with the sunlight, sleep with the sunlight. Obviously a lot of this is impractical and it just ain't gonna happen for a lot of people. However, that is your optimization step. Like if you want the bar, if you want to know what the bar is, or the highest bar is, you have to live with the sunlight and eat with the sunlight.
100%. No, I can't agree more. I cannot agree more. Yeah, and that's probably the most confusing thing about it is like, damn, like you're eating at like, for me, because so here's the thing. Obviously the sun isn't out at like 4 or 5 in the morning, so I have to like quickly get up before the sun comes up. And like during this 1 month, it kind of just it sucks because like you said, it's more beneficial to eat when the sun is out, but like now you're kind of training yourself to do it reverse for 1 month, and then you have to do it again, and then you have to reverse yourself back into your normal ways again. But it's honestly just a crazy experience though. But I totally get why. I mean, here's the thing: the sun plays. Oh crap! Did something happen?
No, I think my radio just went down. It's all good though.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, but and even bringing the sun into because you were even saying photosynthesis and into the mitochondria itself and how an important role the sun plays for the mitochondria is incredible.
Yeah, definitely. That's the circadian biology component right there.
Right.
That's controlled very, very strongly. Getting your skin is extremely important in sunlight, but if you can't, what's even more important is your eyeballs, your bare eyeballs.
Yeah.
Right behind those eyeballs is your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is pretty much you're full of leptin receptors, which are full of photon traps, which are full of being in control of all the master programs of being in control of your hormone releases, and which is a massive effect in terms of anti-depression.
Exactly.
So it's not just a health benefit, it's a lifestyle benefit, and it's free. And from my experience, it's more effective than any diet I've ever tried, and when I'm working out and when I'm building muscle or whatever, it stays longer, it grows faster, it looks more, defined. And that's another way to really getting it in your eyes to lose weight. Like that, all those stories of why can't I lose weight? I'm doing everything perfect.
Because you're not getting enough sun.
They're pretty much all solved by sunlight. Like really,
get your ass in the sun. And see, and that's what kind of sucks for us, me and you, is because like we're both on the East Coast, which really sucks. Right. And like I don't know how it is there, but like at least in Virginia, man, like this, I have not seen the sun. I swear to God, I've not seen the sun. It's crazy. Yeah. It's especially in this time, like, January, February, even March, man, like the sun is just nowhere to be found. And it actually causes me to get like almost like seasonal depression. I swear to God, because the sun I think it has a huge role on mental health, 100%. Yeah. Like the fact that the sun is not out because you're so used to it, and when it's not there, then you're just, like, what's going on?
Right, definitely. It does. It absolutely does. And it's been clinically proven that going on hikes and, beaches and all that stuff relieve depression. And, and a lot of people like to always say that these cold times of the year are called flu season. Well, I call it lack of sunlight season.
Yeah, definitely. So 100%.
That's your redox potential just fizzling away. Exactly. There's a story that Dr. Jack Kruse talks about a lot, which is a great one. He's big into this. He's one of the leaders in this field here.
Wait, what'd you say his name was? Sorry.
Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse is the last name. Hundreds of hours of video, podcasts. So much compiling of data of so many medical journals. Your brain will fall out of your head just going through it all. There's so much dense information. But after years and years of sorting through a lot of it, I think I understand about 25% of it, which is enough to be able to say some interesting things about. No,
100%.
Because when you listen to him, it makes me sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. He goes into some detail that is truly quantum. Like, he goes into all these aquaporiflora gates and all. He just goes into these quantum types of concepts and how they all relate to your biology, because it is ultimately electrons are quantum and photons are quantum. There's many processes in between, like how leptin is the trigger for so many important processes in the body. A lot of that is all quantum.
Exactly.
So it's just that stuff this is the bare bones of really understanding. You got mitochondrial DNA and you've got your nuclear DNA. And Dr. Jack Kruse likes to push the idea that, and I'll go to that story that I was referring to, but he likes to push the idea that we're really only indebted to about 5% of our genetic makeup. The other 95% of us could be controlled by our mitochondria genome, and could be totally, whether you're sick, you could postpone any negative genetic effect. You could prolong any kind of negative effects he even believes due to mutations, and epigenetics is where we're getting into now. You actually can start changing your DNA. I mean, it's not like the environment is the writer of our environment writes our code, basically, is what epigenetics is.
Right.
And the more, the more that we put our body in environments that are beneficial to us, the more it improves our mitochondrial health, and the more that makes us, and that's his main concept. And he goes into all.
Yeah, I agree with you on the environment, and you could be predisposed to having like some sort of genetic defect or whatever. But if it doesn't manifest, and the fact that it might not manifest is probably because you're in a positive environment. But it could manifest if you were in a negative environment. I really do believe that your environment does play a role in things like that.
Yes, definitely. I agree. In that story that he says, I'll tell you a couple of them in terms of the power of sunlight and how your body really is just one kind of nervous system based communication, electromagnetic communication network, and basically it's programmed by the sun and your circadian biology processes, which are programmed by your suprachiasmatic nucleus and other processes or other levers and stuff in the body. But the story is Dr. Jack Kruse, he was trying everything. He's a PhD that started off as a dentist for like 10-15 years. Then he ended up going to neurosurgeon for like the last 30 years, I think it is. He's had his own practice a lot.
Wait, so he went from dentistry to neurosurgery?
Yes. Yep.
Jesus, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's pretty into that stuff. He was the top of his class in Louisiana. I forget the exact university or whatever. It might even just be that.
That's insane, man.
But yeah, he's a smart guy, and he's got so much stuff on his website. Like I said, it just blows your mind. And basically, his main story as to why he's so behind this. He calls himself a quantum clinician, by the way, at this point. But the reason why he's behind this is because 17 years ago, he was trying he tried all sorts of diets. He's 6'2" or something, or 6'3". He's a pretty tall guy, but he was about 360 pounds.
Wow.
And he's trying all these diets, and he realized that being a neurosurgeon, he was working the worst hours, at nighttime. He's under these terrible lights.
Oh my goodness,
terrible environment, and he was gaining extremely high amounts of weight. I mean, he was a football player, an athlete, all sorts of stuff when he was younger, but his body just started spiraling out of control. Then he went to some conference, and when he went up to the conference, he pulled, he twisted or he did something to his knee, and that pretty much, just by stepping up a step, and that pretty much set him off to figure out what the heck was going on with him. And eventually what he did is he tried all these diets and these protocols. None of them were working. He eventually learned about leptin. He eventually learned about the biological clock. And then what he did is he started reprogramming his biological clock by sunlight. And within the first 3 to 6 months of doing that, he lost literally 100 pounds naturally by not changing his diet or nothing. He was 360 some odd pounds. In the first 3 to 6 months, he lost 100 pounds. And then he added in cold thermogenesis protocols. And the remaining 6 months, he lost another 33 pounds.
And see, and by thermogenesis, so I just want to understand. So like I want to understand the science obviously behind it. So when you are putting yourself in such cold temperatures, is that what makes does that affect your metabolism? Is that
because it's upregulating your fat burning process.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
So you got that brown fat and all that good stuff to get to talk about when you get to that topic. But that's one thing he did. And then another popular story he tells, and these are common stories. He has lots of these. You can just ask him because he's got so many clients now. But another good one that I remember specifically is a woman who went to 20 different doctors who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. None of the doctors knew what to tell her. 20 years she was trying to figure out answers to fix this or reverse it or do something about it. None of them could help her after 20 doctors in 20 years. She went to him. He told her to literally go to a certain latitude on Earth, which is basically a very sunny area, like a jungle-like area. And he told her to go recharge her batteries. He gave her a protocol to go and recharge her circadian rhythm. And she was out there for 2 weeks. She claimed that her multiple sclerosis was gone within the first week of doing that. And then after the remaining weeks, it just got even better. And she went back to him, and it was confirmed it was gone. She didn't even.
That's actually crazy. I mean, because like MS is one of the worst.
Right.
One of the worst. Like, that's crazy.
Right. Neurological disorders in general. I mean, then you start getting into why there's so many neurological disorders. What is causing all of these? Why are kids in record numbers popping up with glasses and neurological disorders and ADD and all these crazy things, like these autoimmune diseases and all this? These just too many of the immaculate degeneration, that type of stuff, or what is it, immaculate?
Right.
And those are all caused by, Dr. Jack Kruse says those are all caused by too much. We are literally intoxicating ourselves with unnatural light spectrums. Most unnatural one, because it's mostly used, is blue light. Yes, we need blue light, but we only need blue light when red light is also present, because when red light at the same time, which would be infrared light, 43% of the sunlight,
right,
and also sunlight is also blue light. So a certain percentage, and so you need that red light to regulate that. Otherwise, you're just constantly getting this blue light spectrum that not only is not even sunlight, so it's terrible, because what it has is what's called a flicker, but I won't get into flicker quite yet. But all you need to know is flicker in the typical light bulb is absolutely terrible for you. And most light bulbs have it, especially LED lights. And
what about the iPhone screen? Like, what about an iPhone screen? What is it? Blue light? It is blue light.
All screens are pretty much LEDs.
You see, this is why I have these glasses, man. You see this? This is why I have the glasses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I gotta block these rays, man.
No, that's actually one good thing about glasses for sure. But the thing is, you got it. There are companies that do have specific, better glasses that actually do protect from most of the rays. So that's something to even look into, prescription or not. Could be just sunglasses or whatever. If you don't even have them, you don't need glasses. But yeah, that whole concept there. I mean, he says blue light's causing obesity, neurological disorders, all sorts of things. And the Wi-Fi, basically all these connected devices, what all that is called is non-native electromagnetic frequencies. Those non-native electromagnetic frequencies are basically dehydrating your body. This dehydration process is basically causing inflammation in many different forms all over your body, which is causing your body to develop things called dis-ease. But not, and that right there is pretty much one of the most untalked about things of why our children's health and autoimmune diseases and obesity and diabetes and all those things he claims are being caused. And he's not just his claim, he has thousands of scientific studies behind all this stuff. You just go to his website, it's insane. And I mean, what this all shows is that it is causing intoxication of blue light. Just a straight up intoxication. Basically, if you had a spectroscope, you could see your own environment around your own house. And then most people have like 20 devices out that are all connected to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that. And what it's literally doing is with this technology, you can see that you are living in a sea of the waves of non-native electromagnetic frequencies that are quite literally almost making you live in a microwave. Which is like I said, is, and then when it's
detrimental. It's so detrimental to your body. Yeah.
Ironically, it ages you so fast. So
yeah, wouldn't doubt it.
Reversing age basically means being aware. Could be as simple as being aware of your environment, shutting off your Wi-Fi's when you can, turn off your Bluetooth when you're not using it, turn off any device. If you have smart TVs and smart kitchens with all these smart devices and smart this and smart that.
Right, I know, man. It's so concerning, dude. And that's why I'm like so worried. I mean, and you brought up a valid concern about 5G. And so I was obviously looking more into 5G. And dude, it is concerning. It really is. Because you said our body is not going to be able to absorb that kind of frequency.
It's aging us. It's causing inflammation. And
And yeah, inflammation again. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. And disease is caused by inflammation. So
that's right.
I mean, you nip that stuff in the bud. That's why Dr. Jack Cruz and many doctors like him. He's not the only one. There's people that do heliotherapy. Like I said, that red light therapy is popping up all over the place. There's stuff called photobiomodulation. I mean, there's been doctors throughout years, like even hundreds of years ago, who were using light to heal people. I mean, there's so much studies of using light to heal people. It's very interesting why it's not one of the number one. I mean, UV light kills bacteria. You know, like bad bacteria.
100%.
You know, there's so many things that are just so non-invasive about the right light spectrums that would be so extremely beneficial for our health that nobody ever talks about. And there's barely any side effects. However, there's definitely red light. There are side effects, but I mean, you just call them effects. But they're, you know, no more side effects and nothing nearly as detrimental as many of the medication side effects and pills and stuff like that, you know.
Right. So, no, yeah. Definitely. I mean, there's so much. There is just so much. I mean, and that's just one organelle, man. I mean, that mitochondria. And don't get me wrong. That's probably the most important. It is the most important one. I mean, all of our metabolic process are. See, that's one thing, is that people think that glycolysis takes place in the mitochondria. I'm like, no, it doesn't take place in the mitochondria. But there are other ones that do take place in the mitochondria, like the Krebs cycle and whatnot. And let me ask you something. So obviously most of our metabolic processes are within the mitochondria, within our liver. And so how do you think excessive drinking obviously is gonna be detrimental, but what about occasional drinking? What are your thoughts on occasional drinking and how that affects our liver's mitochondria?
Basically, it just, so I don't know the exact, I haven't looked into alcohol, but by the way I understand, the mitochondria in the liver it just basically all functions the same way, and so much alcohol kills your energetic processes. It dehydrates you in another way, and that just kind of adds on. But if you do like little bits of drinking, like resveratrol, if you're trying to get the resveratrol out of like a red wine or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. You know, a glass of red wine or something like that. And, you know, maybe even mead could be okay. But, you know, everything in every regard, every substance, the dose makes the toxin. Like, no matter what. I mean, you could die from water, you know, if you drank too much of it.
The dose makes the toxin. That's very true. The dose makes the toxin. I like that.
I mean, there's certainly foods that are just bad for you no matter what dose you are taking, like especially like processed foods. Like those I don't even really consider food anymore because there's no life in them. You know, exactly. So I think it's just empty calories, and that is just asking for, you know, inflammation. But yeah, I think alcohol is just another one of those substances that is really not necessarily good for you, but can be good for you and your mitochondria. You know, will be able to handle. That's the thing. So it kind of leads me to this. If your mitochondria are functioning, if they're really, really, really efficient, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. And I'm not saying it's a good idea to do that, but your body at that point is so prepared to handle any invasive, you know, anything invasive, like reactive oxygen species and stuff like that, for your oxidative cycles, all that type of stuff. Like your body's ability to defend against that stuff is tremendous. Your body's ability to produce these T cells, you know, is so much more effective and so much more amplified. And even so, I'm just saying, sure, drink some alcohol. If you're healthy, if your circadian biology is on par, you know, go eat some McDonald's, you know, whatever you want to do, you're going to be fine. That's the beauty of actually preparing. So what it leads me into is there's a doctor who actually tested this. There's people who live near the equator, obviously many tribes, they basically live outside all the time. So what he did, he wanted to go there and check their gut health. And so what he did was he went out there for about a month and he injected them all with like what the heck are those things? Antibiotics, and they were also eating all sorts of crazy, like just all the worst stuff in the American diet, all the McDonald's,
yeah,
all the sodas that we drink, just the worst processed foods. And even after a month of these people consistently eating those foods, he was measuring their microbiome in the gut and nothing changed. It was still just as healthy as it was a month ago.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, that's the power of the sun. It gives you freedom to kind of do things, but it also
like leverage.
It's like a trade-off. You also have to change other schedules and stuff.
Exactly. You have to do your part as well. You definitely have to do your part as well. That makes a lot of sense. 100%. 100%. Man, that is crazy, man. I mean just in all the ways that the mitochondria helps improve and sustain your body. I mean, after having this conversation, like if you ask me like what kind of superpower you have, I was like, bro, I just quadrupled the amount of mitochondria in my body. Like that's like the best super. That's literally the best super. I swear. Yeah,
yeah, man.
That's insane.
Yeah,
it's a very powerful organelle.
Yeah, no, it really is, and there's actually studies done that if your body is maintaining a constant flow or a charge of millivolts in terms of millivolts from negative 200 to negative 400. So we're talking about this net negative charge here, redox potential, all that stuff. Dr. Jack Cruz says that you will not get sick if you maintain that negative 200 millivolts to negative 400 millivolts.
Right.
Yep.
There is monitoring. Yeah, that's true. I can see that. That makes sense. Okay, let's see.